Hey everybody, let's talk about the top 10 job interview questions and the best answers to those questions. Now here's an article that appeared in the Balance Careers, and let's go down this article and see if they got the answers right. Okay, let's jump right in. Number 1, tell me about yourself. This is a very popular question. It's usually used to kick off a job interview. Now, the answer to this, I don't think they really got it right. The way you answer this is you talk about things off your resume, because your resume material is safe. It will not get you eliminated. If it would get you eliminated, you wouldn't be at the job interview. So they say, tell me about yourself, and you say, well, as you can see from my resume, and then you summarize your resume in about 45 seconds, and you end by saying, and that's what brings me here today, and why I'm excited to learn more about this opportunity. Because that's, after all, why you're in the job interview, is to talk about this opportunity and not something you did 15 years ago, which is not relevant to anything and is just wasting time. Okay, now question number 2, why do you want this job? That's also a popular question. It's actually very similar to the question, why should we hire you? Now, the way you answer these questions is you say, why do I want this job? Well, I want this job because... And then you go down the list of requirements in the job description. For example, if they're looking for someone with a college degree in something and 5 years experience in something and familiarity with some tools, maybe software or other things, you say, well, I want this job because I have this qualification and I have 5 years experience in this thing, and I have experience with this tool or this software that you're looking for. So it seems like the perfect job for me, and that's why I want it. Okay, very similar to why should we hire you? In fact, these questions have the same answer. Why should we hire you? Well, you should hire me because, and then you go down the list of requirements again, right? Because I have this qualification and 5 years experience in this, and I am familiar with these tools. Now, obviously, if they ask you these questions back to back, which is actually unlikely, but if they do, a lot of people ask, do I give the same answer? The answer is yes, you do. I mean, you're not going to say exactly the same thing. That would be weird. But if you repeat to them that you meet the requirements that they're looking for, don't worry about it. That's actually a good thing, okay? So you obviously want to use different words, but you're basically going to say the same thing. And the next question, what is your greatest strength? That's also related to these questions, okay? Now, what is your greatest strength? Well, you're obviously going to pick one thing. You're not going to list how you meet requirements. You're going to pick something. Now, the only thing you should say here is something that you know that they're looking for. Not something you think they're looking for, something you know they're looking for. So you know what they said in the job description. So you have a lot to go on. You can pick one of the technical requirements that they've listed and say, my greatest strength is the fact that I have 5 years experience because that taught me how to do this right, and it taught me how to deal with people and, that kind of thing. That's what I feel is my greatest strength. Or you could pick a soft skill. Now, only pick a soft skill that you know that they're looking for. If the job requires that you have great collaboration abilities or the ability to communicate very well, and this has been stated in some way, either in the job description or by the interviewers, then if that's how you feel you have some skills in that, then that's what you say. What is my greatest strength? Well, my greatest strength is that I have really good ability to collaborate. I can get along with every type of person, and I've had a lot of experience doing this. So I feel I can bring that to this job or many others, and that's what I feel is my greatest strength. Something like that. That would be a good answer. Okay, what is your greatest weakness? Now, this is a tricky question. This is a very popular question, and the problem here is that if you give an actual weakness, which a lot of people have a natural inclination to do, the problem is most of the time you disqualify yourself, okay? Because if they don't know you, if they haven't met you, this is your first meeting, and so you're giving a first impression. If they ask, what's your greatest weakness, and you give them a genuine weakness, you're probably going to eliminate yourself from the running. Okay, that's the problem with this question. It's a trick question. the way you answer it is you give a strength that seems like a weakness. Okay, I know it's kind of a cliche, but you could say, well, I'm too friendly, or I try to take on too much work thinking I can handle it, and sometimes it stresses me out. That's the way you do this, okay? So you would think that people would appreciate honesty. Unfortunately, most recruiters don't. Unfortunately, most recruiters and some hiring managers are actually not that sophisticated. So the problem is, if you actually answer this in a genuine way, it will disqualify you. A lot of recruiters will say that that's not the case, but the reality is that that's exactly what they do. So the problem is, they're fishing for something here. Don't give it to them, because if you do, it's bad. And if you think that this is silly and you would not like to do it, the problem is you actually are genuine. It comes back to bite you. That's the unfortunate truth of this. Occasionally, you will find recruiters and hiring managers that are a bit more sophisticated, or maybe you're not making a first impression and they actually like you and they want to get to know you more. But those are actually few and far between, despite what they say. Okay, question number 6. Why do you want to leave or have left your job? Okay, this is a negativity question. What they're basically looking for is they're looking to see if you're going to badmouth your previous boss, your previous job, or previous coworkers. And if you do, it is bad for a variety of reasons. Okay, you don't want to communicate that you are the type of person that badmouths somebody. Also, if you have a sordid, dark past, you do not want to reveal it for the reasons I just explained for the last question. It makes a very bad first impression. Okay, so the bottom line is never badmouth anything. Okay, so if you did leave because you didn't like it or because there was a problem, as much as possible, do not admit to the problem. It's just that simple. Okay, now if you were fired, that's a bit of a tricky type situation. The conventional answer is to say, yes, I was fired, and here's what I learned from the experience. However, for the reasons I've previously explained for the last couple of questions, most recruiters will not be sophisticated enough to take that. They will simply eliminate you based on the fact that you were fired. This comes from recruitment theory, where past behavior is acknowledged to be a better predictor of your future behavior than first impressions. That's the entire principle behind behavioral interview questions. That's what's at play here. So a lot of times, if you say you were fired, recruiters will eliminate you, period. The way to get around this question is that if you were fired and you do have something that you don't want to say in answer to this question, talk about the reasons that led to the incident rather than the incident itself. So, for example, if there were no opportunities for advance, that's one thing. That's a great thing to say. If there were issues with the work that you do, you found that your role changed and you were just not that interested in assuming this new role, but it reignited your passion for the original role, maybe that was the source of the conflict that led to your firing. Talk about that conflict. Talk about, how, like I said, you were not interested in, your role changing to something else. Your original passion for the role is what drove you, and that's what you're focused on. So that's what you would say and no more. Remember, the job interview, it's not a deposition. Just because they ask you a question, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to give, full and complete information if it's to your detriment. Okay, you don't want to lie, but you don't need to volunteer things. So just remember that. Okay, most people will not have too much of a problem with this question because there won't be much of a problem in their past. They can just explain it straight off. Now, what are your salary expectations? This is a big one. This is one that everybody gets really nervous about. The bottom line here is that you don't want to give a number. Now, the problem here is that a standard answer that a lot of recruiters recommend you say is that you give the range for your position that you would find on, like in here, they give you an answer from glassdoor.com. Now, I'm not knocking Glassdoor.com. Some of the stuff they have on there, the information that they have for free to the public, is good, but some of it isn't. It's not that accurate, and it depends what job you're going for. So this is actually not a great answer, what they say here. Instead, the way you would answer what are your salary expectations is you try to avoid to give a number. So number one, you would say, well, I need to know more information about the job before I can really give you an accurate answer on that. I'm just sort of getting a picture of what it's going to involve. Okay, if they're not happy with that, you would say, well, this is an approved position, right? It's been posted, so I'm assuming that the salary has been approved. Do you mind asking me what is the official range for this position? And you throw the question back at them. Now, if they say, well, I don't know what the salary is, but I need to know what you want, which is a common transparent tactic that a lot of recruiters use. The third thing you would say is you would give a wide range, very low to very high. Okay. And when I say very low to very high, I mean something that's reasonable that starts off very low and goes to a high number that's still within reason. Okay. And that gives you multiple advantages because they can't eliminate you on a low number. The reason why they ask this question is to eliminate you. If you say, I need $800,000 a year to do the job, they're glad they asked the question because they just eliminate you and they move on to candidates that are actually going to work out. That's the reason they're asking this. The only time when they're serious about this question is when you are in the offer stage at the very end of the process. When they ask you this question at any time before that point, it's to try and eliminate you. So you get around that by giving a range that starts with a low number so they can't eliminate you because you want too much money, but then it goes to a high number, and that allows you to negotiate higher salary at the end when they've given you a job offer and you actually have something to bargain with. Okay, that's how you answer that. Number 8, how do you handle stress and pressure? They give you a big long answer here that is incorrect. The way to answer this question is to say, I handle stress very well. And then you stop talking. The more you talk here, this is another negativity question. The more you talk here, the more they are hearing about how you get stressed and how you have to cope. And these are bad things, okay? They give a very bad first impression because now they're thinking of you in a stressful situation and you're having to do all kinds of things to cope with stress because it's a very stressful job. That's not what you're at the job interview to talk about. If they say, how do you handle stress and pressure? And you say, oh, well, I actually handle stress and pressure very well. And then you stop. Chances are they will move on. Well, it's not chances are. The probability that they will move on to the next question is extremely high. It's something like 95%. Okay, they move on to the next question and you pass this question and you don't waste time talking about how bad you are and how stressed you get. Okay, number 9, describe a difficult work situation or project and how you handled it. Now, this is an example of a behavioral-based question. Okay, anytime you have to answer with a story from your past, that's a behavioral question. And the way you answer these is that you prepare 5 success stories and 5 failure stories before you go there. Okay, so you think through your work history and you carefully pick out your 5 most shining moments, and you pick out 5 examples of things that did not go very well, but you know what the right thing is to do in that situation. Okay, and these are planned ahead, they are rehearsed, so that anytime they ask you a behavioral question, you're going to be pulling out one of these 10 stories, and the odds of one of those 10 stories being able to fit any behavioral question they asked you are extremely high. So that's how you handle behavioral-based questions. Okay? And people what recruiters say is that you should use the STAR method to answer. So the situation, action, the action taken, the result, and I prefer the STAR L method actually. So that's situation, the action that you took, or the task you were given, I should say, STAR. So situation, task, the action that you took, and then the result that followed. Okay, and then L stands for learning. You say, this is what I learned. I learned that I'm actually very good at this, or I learned that in future I should do it this way, or I learned that you know, people have different requirements other than what I was expecting. You know, something like this, right? And that's a great way to answer any behavioral question. Okay, that's the format you would use. Okay, number 10, what are your goals for the future? Well, remember, everything you say in a job interview, it should be addressing what they're looking for, okay? Now, this is a very similar question to when they ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Okay, now the reason they ask these questions is because they want to make sure that you're going to be sticking around for the long haul. Okay, so you don't want to say, oh, I'm going to be doing this other job in another industry, you know, under different circumstances. That's going to disqualify you. So what you want to say is you want to say something consistent with this job. Okay, so there are actually a lot of recruiters that want to hear that you're going to be in this exact job in the future. They don't want to hear that, you know, you're being promoted or you're working your way up the ladder or anything like that. Okay, so that is a possibility. However, a good answer for this, okay, is to pick out something about this job, either the name of the role or the function that you do or the type of work that you do, and say, that's my goal, to excel in that area. And that's usually a good answer that does not get you disqualified. So they have more resources here, and I think that's pretty much the end of their list of questions. Okay, questions to ask the interviewer. There's a ton of these. Okay, I've done a video on that. You don't want to say no. You don't want to say, I don't have any questions. You want to ask a ton of questions, and you want them to be prepared ahead of time. Okay, so what the recruiter or what the interviewer shouldn't ask, this is actually going to vary by region. Okay, depending on what country you're in and what region of that country you're in, the laws vary. And a lot of people like to say absolute things here, but actually this stuff varies quite a bit. So you want to look up what that is in your specific region. Okay, and that's pretty much their list of questions. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you very much for your attention. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my main channel, The Company's Expert. I will put a link in the description, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.